Hey YouTube, it's Anthony coming back at you. Got a new phone, Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, and just wanted to make another video with this phone, and I wanted to give an update on my most popular video to date. It's my review of Risperdal compared to olanzapine. Um, Not going to talk much about olanzapine anymore. If you're interested in that and kind of the differences, you could check out my last video made about a year ago. It's got 12,000 views, which is far and above anything I've ever recorded. So I just wanted to make a video to give you guys a little bit of I don't know, say a 1 year update on Risperdal. So yeah, I've been taking Risperdal daily, 2 milligrams a day, since I was released from the psychiatric center, and that was back in the summer of 2018. So oh wait, so it's summer of 2018, 2019. So we're 2 years into it. I'm stupid. Sorry. I guess I've been on Risperdal 2 years, and it's time has really flown by. And most of the time on Risperdal, um, people ask about how it reacts with your body and how you feel on it. And I'm going to say again, like I said before, we've gone 2 years without a manic episode. Because I was batshit crazy when I was first put on it. I was having delusions, false beliefs, rapid accelerated speech. Um, I had thoughts that people were out to get me. I had delusions of grandeur that I was Jesus Christ himself. I had thoughts that my deceased father was alive, and I could hear. I was having auditory hallucinations. I remember being in the hospital when I was admitted, and I got and I used to watch this guy called Dan Pena on YouTube. If you look him up, he's this unorthodox business guy who does motivational speaking, and he says the F word, and he's really he's really nasty with it. He uses a lot of profanity, but it gets the point across. But I remember sitting in the hospital, and I could hear like them talking about his castle and where he lives, and I was could have sworn that there was something in the speakers on the ceiling in the hospital playing it because I could hear it, but it was all in my head. And shit, I mean, I got so many stories, like manic episode stories that I could tell you, um, but that's not the point of this update. The point is, I think I'll make a follow up video. I'm gonna start a series on bipolar one disorder because bipolar one disorder is more destructive than bipolar two disorder, and I have the worst one of the two. My mother has bipolar two, so it runs in families, and I got it from her. But we've been on Risperdal for 2 years and haven't had a manic episode. Um, Not even close, and haven't had any. I mean, I've had some anxiety with my new job, because if you didn't know, I had been unemployed for a year and a half after getting wrongly terminated from my employer, and it was a rough year and a half. I mean, I'm talking. I had $20 in my bank account. I didn't have enough money to buy Juul, which I smoke. So I was delivering groceries full time, I guess. You're only doing maybe 2 or 3 batches a day. I was making like $120 a week, $200 a week. And don't let that discourage you from Instacart, because I've seen on the Instacart forums people that they can make $500 a week if you really hustle. But, I didn't want to break my ass. I just wanted to make enough money to have some money in my pocket. But somebody asked me in my Here in My Office series that do I think that having bipolar 1 disorder is impeding me from getting a job? And I sincerely don't believe so. And is it a problem performing on the job? I also don't believe so. So I can tell you this: I was not in the condition to work when I was manic. I, and we'll get into, if we're going to make a follow up story on some of the shit that I did when I was manic. I wish I had the camera. I wish I didn't have a YouTube channel back then. I didn't make videos, so I couldn't have recorded all this craziness. But you know, I don't know, what was I gonna say. Anyway, unemployed for a year and a half, doing shitty manual labor jobs with groceries to try to make ends meet, and they didn't make ends meet because I'm currently $60,000 in debt with my house, with my mortgage. I got a $3,500 a month mortgage payment that when you're making $100 a week, you can't pay a $3,500 mortgage payment. So, I'm not totally back on my feet yet, but as you can see, I'm navigating some difficult waters financially, and that kind of shit causes my wife stress. It causes stress, and then at the same time, you're trying to put on your game face at work, like everything's okay, and when it might not be. But I have a good boss. She doesn't drive me crazy like I've had bosses do in the past. Uh, she's good, supportive, helpful, and that's key, guys. Don't be at a job where you can't stand your boss. There's nothing worse than that. So I can say, things are going good. And if you're interested in my career and things like that, I made to date 79 videos about here in my office, and they take you through the whole um, saga from about the time of, I think I started recording videos a couple months after I lost my job, and I might have been a little out of touch with reality in the early days after I got fired, because that really messed with me, and because you derive a lot of identity from the job that you hold, and you know having that taken away, it's quite a blow to your self-esteem. I'm delivering groceries with a master's degree in business administration and a degree in finance that I worked hard at. Um, I'm a certified internal auditor. I'm a certified SAP application associate. I was a systems analyst, and I'm also certified in New York life and health insurance. I passed the I passed the test that you need to take for New York State, the state exam, to be licensed to sell insurance. I never sold a penny worth of insurance, and that's a little bit about partially my fault. But I didn't put the work into it. It was too too big of a challenge to build a clientele in a time that because I don't have time for that. I needed to get back on a salary, and I decided to bow out, but I still have the certification. I still have a license, so that's on my resume on LinkedIn. But what I'm trying to say is that through all of this pain and suffering and bullshit and being broke, uh, I took my Risperdal every day, 2 milligrams a day at night. And one thing you might notice after being on the drug for an extended period of time is that it doesn't affect you as much as it did in the beginning. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, the side effect initially in the hospital was it would cause extreme drowsiness to the point that I had to fall asleep. And I think it was probably like that for weeks, maybe. Can't really remember what my sleeping patterns were in the hospital, but I did sleep good in the hospital. I got a good night's sleep every night. I was involuntarily in the hospital. Um, and basically, if you don't take your medication, they're going to keep you in the hospital even longer. So I took the pills they gave me, and I guess over time, meeting with the psychiatrists, it took time in the hospital to get to the point where I was ready to function outside in the outside world. And yeah, I think, my outpatient clinic, I go to a place not called I used to go to Best Self, but now I go to Spectrum Human Services. That's in Buffalo, New York, where I live. Where I live now. I'm moving to Philadelphia though. But go to Spectrum. In the beginning, they were meeting with me every week, every couple weeks, and I meet with a therapist, and I meet with a nurse practitioner who does who dispenses the meds for me. And we got to the point where all I was really talking about in these calls. I'm so business minded. All I was talking about in these psychiatry sessions were what's going on with my job search. So really, kind of what I talk about on here in my office was what I talked about to the psychiatrist. I didn't really talk much about my problems, or well, it was a problem, but that was my biggest problem. So that's the only thing I really talked about. I said, unemployed, still looking for a job. I got all these interviews all over the country. And of course, once I get relocated, I'm going to have to find a new psychiatrist. So I'll be taking you guys along on that trip. We'll see what kind of psychiatrists they have in Philadelphia, and what the environment is like, and what the treatments are like, and if it's any different than what I'm on right now. But I don't feel any different on Risperdone than I did without it when I wasn't manic. Um, it's just a tiny ass pill. It's not a horse pill or anything. It's a tiny 2 milligram pill, and I'm on a low dose. So some people might have to take more than that. But I'm not on a mood stabilizer. They wanted to put me on lithium in the hospital, and I refused. And I guess I won that battle. Um, I'm not on that. I didn't want to be on that because you need to do blood work and stuff. It's a dirtier drug than Risperidone, I think. So I stayed away from that. And I don't seem to need it. I mean, I'm fully functioning now. Uh, I still drink alcohol, and it doesn't seem to have an effect. It doesn't seem to interact with the drug. It's not like I get like super wasted on a small amount of alcohol because I'm on a drug, but I don't get that at all. And so 2 years out, I'm not in the weight gain that people talk about. A lot of people, some people experience incredible weight gain on this drug. And I could say that my appetite, and again, that goes back to when you're first put on the drug. When I was first put on the drug, I was eating like a madman. I was hungry all the time, fully eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And, they had snacks and sandwiches that you could have in the psych ward. And I would take advantage of that and eat chips and pretzels and sandwiches, ham sandwiches and bologna sandwiches, and just get full. And, I did that um, mostly the whole time I was in there. Um, and also too, when I was in the hospital, I was a bit of a smooth talker. I talked my way out of being in the hospital after only like a couple days when I was first admitted. And I was manic the whole time, but I talked the doctors into. I guess they thought I was speaking intelligently enough to uh, be okay, maybe. So they let me out, and when they let me out, all hell broke loose, and the police were involved. And I'll just leave it at that because, um, you know, I was definitely manic, but I can save that story for story time next time when I make a video. I want to kind of get all this stuff down before I forget it, because now my manic episodes, the latest one was 2 years ago, so it's kind of fading from my memory. Um, but I don't see me having another manic episode while I'm taking Risperidone. If I got off it, I would I don't know. I don't know what would happen. Usually going manic for me requires a trigger. Like the death of my father was a trigger. Uh, Changing bosses and having different reporting lines and things like that stressed me out, and that was something that was a trigger. This was when I was unmedicated, though. I don't think now on my medication. I think if my mother died, God forbid, I don't think I would be thrown into a tailspin like I was when my dad did, because I was not on the right medication back then. I wasn't on medication, And a little background, I'm 38 years old, and I've never been on psychiatric medication until I was, what is it, 33. First time I went into the hospital, 5 years ago. Back when I got married, I had a lot going on in my life, and the death of my father threw me into a tailspin. Um, First time they prescribed me olanzapine, and I'll say it again, I hated olanzapine. I can't even put into words how I felt, to be honest with you. It's like you don't feel like yourself, if that makes any sense. You feel like, I don't mean detached from reality because that's like going manic, but I was calling it a disassociative feeling. If that makes any sense. Just just not feeling right, just not feeling, not being happy. I mean, basically, I don't know if there was a little depression too. It just didn't, the shit just didn't work for me. And I quit olanzapine cold turkey. I would highly suggest not to do that, because if you do that, the mania comes back with a vengeance. It really does. Like it's like it was under control while you were taking the drug, like it is right now. Um, and then a week later of not taking the drug, it's out of your system, and you start getting thoughts. And actually, when I get delusional thoughts and psychosis, I can almost feel like a pins and needles sensation in my neck, in my head, like something really like I can feel the brain activity. I know that sounds weird, and it might be in my head, but I'll get this kind of euphoria feeling, maybe like a feeling you get if you did a hard drug and it goes to your head, but the drug is bipolar disorder, and you know it comes on like a whirlwind. And so I highly recommend, if you are on a drug that you don't like, you need to work with your pharmacist and your doctor and your psychiatrist to transition yourself to something else in a safe way, not just throw it in the garbage like I did. And I could say, after quitting olanzapine cold turkey, it took me 2 or 3 months before I felt better. Um, so you know, I I immediately felt better when I stopped taking the drug. But the reason why I don't want to stop taking Risperdal is because I don't have any side effects from it. I feel fine. I feel like I'm functioning just like I did for many, many years before I had any of this psychiatry problems, before my diagnosis of bipolar 1 disorder. Um, and going back in history, I'll talk about this a little bit more in follow-up video, but my first manic episode actually occurred when I graduated high school when I was 18. Uh, and I told the doctors about this when I was admitted in my 30s, but I had delusions and false beliefs, and rapid speech and crying, and going through different emotions and losing control of my emotions. And that happened to me after I graduated high school. So that was the trigger. Graduated high school, and I went straight to college, but it still stressed me out to the point that I freaked out. You know, no longer going to, I went to a small Catholic high school in the suburbs on the water, St. Francis High School, it's called. It's a college preparatory school. But you're in a small school, and everything was under control, and I had been in that school for 4 years, and I was a senior, and I was comfortable. And then you graduate, and you're on your own. And instead of enjoying that moment, I went into a downward spiral. Um, they diagnosed it as a nervous breakdown back then. They didn't. I don't know if bipolar one disorder was not as well understood back then, but I just went. My parents just sent me to a family doctor, and he said I had a nervous breakdown, and didn't prescribe me any drugs or anything, and just that was the end of it. And then between the age, then decades went on before I had another episode. So this is the other thing, guys. Just because decades go by without problems doesn't mean you don't have bipolar 1 disorder. It just means it's dormant or it's under control. Because mania doesn't, it has a finite start and end time, and it doesn't go on continuously. But you'll know when it does. But so for 2 years, my 2 milligram pill, I see no reason in stopping taking it. And I forget to take it sometimes. I try not to, but I've went maybe 2 days without it, and with no problem. But I'm not going to tempt fate. I think that's just like it's still in your system, still built up in your system. Because they told me in the hospital it takes like a month for the drug to be fully absorbed into your system and your brain, and you know getting the full benefits of it. So that's why they keep you in the hospital that long, because you're under an observation to make sure that the drug is working for you. And it did. It worked for me, and they released me. And I went through that rough time of unemployment for a long time and made it through it. Interviewing throughout the whole time, multiple interview rounds. So you talk about stress, panel interviews, putting you on the spot, getting questions left, right, and center from multiple people, having multiple rounds of interviews, and having to talk about your professional work history for the past 12 years in my case. Um, that brings a stressor in and of itself. Um, and yeah, I went through dozens and dozens of interviews during my unemployment stint, um, without a problem. The only problem was I wasn't getting the job. But I think that was just because I didn't find a job that aligned to my. Now I'm an internal auditor. I'm an audit manager. Uh, I am responsible for people management, having people under me. So when I'm on an audit, I manage the whole thing and have assigned work to auditors, staff auditors, and principal auditors, and things like that. Um, it's a highly technical job. A lot of reading, a lot of work, lot of dense subject matter. Um, Especially where I work. I work at Wells Fargo, and it's a complicated bank, very big, lots of people, lots of systems, lots of processes to master. And I think I'm doing okay. Getting up to speed. Uh, I started in the beginning of June, so I have like a month and a half of work under my belt, and yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing fine. So uh, that about wraps it up. So if you're on Risperdal and it's working for you, don't be swayed by the stigma of being on a mental health medication. Don't 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 just say I don't want to I don't want something controlling my mind or something like that. Because if you stop taking it and you are truly bipolar disorder, you're gonna go into a tailspin, and you're gonna destroy relationships, and you're gonna destroy your job. Um, you're gonna be you're not gonna be able to function in society. You might be able to function in a psychiatric ward, and that's about it. Do you think that's worth not taking a pill? I don't think so. So, so stay on it, guys. Stay the course. If you have any questions about, if you have any questions about being on Risperdal or bipolar disorder, put them in the comments, and I try to answer all my comments. I don't get too many comments, so it's pretty easy for me. So depending on how many views I get on this video, like I said, the last one got 12,000. So we'll see if we get good reception on this. I don't know. So thanks, guys. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.